All right, so welcome to our first pilot show. Today's topic is going to be about domestic violence, and on the panel I have Shantay Williams and Shawn Cornelius. My name is Tyler, and I will be your host. So a little bit about Shantay Williams. She's a mother of one. She's an author of a book called Scars and Makeup, Her Life. She's an author, community activist, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, radio personality, youth advocate, and mentor. And she's also a domestic violence survivor and advocate. And Shawn Cornelius, he's a veteran entertainer, comedian, radio show host, producer, author, actor, musician, motivational speaker, and he says he's an all-around good guy. Very nice to know. All right, so we're going to jump right into it, and I'm going to throw the first question to Shantay. When you say you're a survivor of domestic violence, knowing that you've been through all of that, I want you to tell me, what does domestic violence mean to you?
Domestic violence means to me, it's like a sickness, kind of, sort of. And when I say that, it's because it can be considered something like a lifestyle to those who stay and put up with versus those who leave. And I put up with it about 3 times in 3 different relationships. But as I was growing up, I didn't realize, going to seek help and things like that, that domestic violence was something that, can be, within your family, in your home. It could come from your mother, your father, your brothers, anybody. It's not just someone actually physically putting your hands on you. It's a mental thing. It's an emotional thing. So that's why I said it's kind of like a lifestyle. So, yeah.
All right. I would say a negative lifestyle.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Shawn, when you think about domestic violence, what experiences have you had with that?
When I hear domestic violence, I automatically used to think physical until I found out that it could be mental, emotional, sexual, those kind of things. So I automatically see physical violence towards your spouse, your mate, or someone. But as far as experiences, man, I have to be honest with you. I in my family situation growing up in my household, I never seen it. Not to say that it hadn't happened, but there was only one time that I got in between my stepfather and my mom during an argument, but he didn't physically, but they were going at it, so it looked like it could have gotten there. But I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, and I said, "You're not gonna hit my mother, whatever. You're not leave my mother alone." But they were just arguing. So I've seen it with friendships, other friends who have gone through it. I never myself have gone through it or been abused or abused. Let me put that out there, because I was raised that you don't. First of all, you don't hit a woman. That's what I was raised and taught. Then later on, that I know that some men are abused by females. So as far as experiences, man, it's just people that I've known, women who were friends and in relationships that I found out were being abused on that level, and then on the mental level and everything else. So nothing right inside my home.
So, Shawn, you bring up a good point that you was raised never to hit a woman. Have you ever heard any parent or guardian tell a young girl never to hit a boy?
I have. As far as, well, when in my younger days, you didn't hear that. You just heard, don't hit that little girl or don't hit that girl. But then there was times where don't hit, nobody should hit anyone, nobody should put their hands on anyone.
Right. And
instead of saying, you young lady should not hit him, it was like, no one should put their hands on anyone. But you hear it now, because how young men are, and some young women or women period are very aggressive,
yes,
physically aggressive. So you hear it now. But back in the day, it was pretty much nobody should hit anybody. Keep your hands off each other, that kind of thing.
Right. So, Shantay, you're raising a young boy. Can we say how old he is?
Yes, he is 14. Shout out to my son, Jordan.
All right. So let's pick up what Shawn was talking about in terms of teaching boys not to hit girls. Being that you dealt with it, I don't know if he's seen it or experienced what you've dealt with. You can touch on that or not. But in terms of your parenting style with your son in relation to domestic violence, how are you raising him on that issue?
Well, most definitely, he has experienced me going through a domestic violence situation. And not only me, but my ex, his son as well. They seen it, and it really wasn't good. And it was sad because they were young, really young. I think around 6 and 4 at the time. My son was 6. And when not the actual first time it happened, but when they were there to experience it, it was like a cheering thing. Like my son was cheering me on and his son was cheering him on. And when I saw that, it like literally broke my heart. Like, wow. Just to even see these kids bearing witness to something so horrible. And then on top of that, my son experiencing me, being abused, but fighting back. And then on the other hand, his son is like, yay, daddy, go daddy. And it's just like, I looked at him and was like, you're going to be just like your dad. So moving forward with that, I always tell my son, don't put your hands on a woman. If she does put her hands on you, walk away or call the police. People say it's cowardly, but then again, no, it's not, because at the end of the day, she could end up hitting you, and you could be the person that is a part of domestic violence like me. And he said, Ma, I know. So I'm always on him with things like that. When it comes time for females, don't even play fight. Don't play hit. Don't do the little love taps, because you hit a girl hard enough, she start crying. You're physically stronger, things like that. So, overall, it's just not good to hit anybody. And when I was growing up, just to piggyback off of Shawn, I was always told, if he hit you, hit him back. That was it. But it was never a time, like you said, it was always, if she hits you, don't hit her or hit her back. It was always, if he hits you or if she hits you, hit them back. So it was always on a defense. Right. If someone hits me, just hit them back. Boy or girl, that was my thing. And me, excuse me, I'm only one girl out of 4 boys on my mother's side. So I grew up tough, fighting my brothers and everything like that. So I have a strong hysteria.
I remember growing up, they would say if a girl hit you, that meant she liked you.
Yeah, well, when you're younger.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when you had that. Because I'm going to be honest with you, that's that situation where I was going to tell you, the only one time that I can remember even messing with a girl on that level, I pushed this girl named Betty in the closet. And it was 5th grade, and I pushed her in the closet, not because I was trying to be physically abusive, because I liked her, and that's the only way I knew. So you put the wrong concept, and sometimes it is true, I guess, because you don't know how to express your like when you're 10, 11, 12, whatever, until you learn. But then do you think that can also cause something just to be, it's okay, regardless, because some people mentally, they're not going to grow.
Right.
Some people don't mentally grow. So it's like, can someone take that from that point and still say, it's okay for me to push you down or do this or whatever?
Well, I think as they get older, hopefully they grow mentally and they understand that there's different ways to express love and affection.
I agree.
Hopefully. But sometimes it doesn't happen that way, and then people need to intervene. People need to see these things. So when we talk about domestic violence, physical abuse is not the only violence, right? So we know there's other issues. So Shantay, can you speak to some other issues or other ways that we experience domestic violence?
Well, like I said earlier, growing up in my family, I had a mother who was addicted to drugs, cocaine, and things of that nature. So I don't know if you guys remember when you were younger, that commercial when they would say, this is your brain with the egg and this is your brain on drugs. Mm-hmm. And they would say, drugs make you mean to everybody like a monster. Remember that commercial? Mm-hmm. And I would notice when my mom was high and when she wasn't high. And when she wasn't high, she would flip out, constantly yelling and screaming and hitting and beating. And it was just like, we used to be like, well, what the hell? What did we do? But I caught on quickly, knowing like, okay, she's not high no more, But it was like when she was high, she was the nicest person. We'd go to the store, we'd get money from her, we'd go outside, anything we wanted. But it was like a constant thing. And it's sad to say, but I didn't realize that until I got older and I started attending sessions and meetings and getting help and counseling for domestic violence. And that's when I known that certain people could be living with it their whole entire life and didn't know. It didn't have to just be a physical thing. It didn't have to be a man versus a woman thing. And from there, I started putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
So we're making that move from physical violence to substance abuse in the home, the way children are being raised by parents who are addicted to drugs, and that's another form of domestic violence or domestic neglect,
yes.
possibly. Shawn, I know you mentioned some young boys in the past at a job that you worked at. So
right.
Could you speak to some of the people that were coming in and what you had to deal with?
Yeah, I used to work up at Harlem Valley Psychiatric Center. It was a maximum security prison for young men, upstate New York. And my mom was a social worker and psychologist and all that. And I had the job to actually, it was like a CO type of work. And the unit that I was on was the physical abuse, physical and mental abuse, and cats who had murdered people or killed people or whatever. But there was a unit, C unit, I remember specifically, was sexual abuse. And there were a few times I had to go substitute over there. And these were kids, young people who have raped, did bad things to their family members, sisters, girlfriends, things of that level. But the unit I was on specifically dealt with cats who were doing physical things. And we had a couple of inmates there who I had to counsel from time to time about some of the things they did. And they said some of the things that they were accused of that they didn't do. And just dealing with these young guys from the ages like 14, 15, 16, 17, seeing that they came from all types of walks of life, even the good families,
right.
the foundations where we claim that are good foundations. Mm-hmm. So even if they come from good foundations, that doesn't mean they can't turn out to do bad things Absolutely. Or things that are destructive as far as domestically and mentally abusing and sexually abusing. So it was amazing to me because I wasn't in that mentality. You know what I mean? I came from the family, which was the mother, the father. We ate dinner every night at the table. We didn't have those kind of situations. So to hear some of the stories from these young men and to hear where their mental, and some of them weren't bad kids. You know, we say that there are people that do bad things. There's no such thing as bad people. Yes, there are.
Right.
Bad people do bad things, but some of them didn't get it. They were taught that okay, or they saw that it is okay. I had one inmate who all they knew was they heard their parents say, "If I'm hitting you because I love you. If I didn't love you, I wouldn't do this." You know, you're lucky that you have someone who cares about you enough to get on you. But physically, it was a physical thing. So they grew up thinking that when someone hits you or abuses you, that's love, and there's a cycle to that sometimes. So it was crazy. One inmate went off one day. We had to put him in the timeout room, and he was like, "Come on, hit me. That's all I know. Hit me. You love me. You love me. You gonna hit me." And we were like, "Wow, no, that's not it,
that's
dude."
So heartbreaking.
And it is. It's very much so. So even you can come from various backgrounds.
It's true.
The best ones and the worst ones. So I don't think there's a proper formula. You can say that, if you have that stability of a mother, father, people who are together raising you on a certain level, you won't grow up to do this or be this way. That's not true. Totally true.
Yeah.
Okay, so who is the physical abuser in the home?
Who is the physical abuser?
Yeah, because we went from what domestic violence is, and we talked about neglect and drugs. Now we're talking about physical abuse. Are they getting that from their mother, their father, both? And who's in that home who's doing the majority of the raising of the children?
Well, as for me, I grew up in a house with a couple of uncles, my grandmother, my grandfather, and my mother, and all my brothers, cats, dogs, whatever you want to call it, all that. And when you experience a house full of people who are doing multiple type of drugs, whether it's crack being smoked or being cooked, cocaine being snorted, alcohol being drank, it's like you tend to get it from various ways because my uncles, they would discipline us, but not physically. It would be verbally. Sit us down, especially me being a female. They would say things like, "We don't want you to be young, dumb, and full of cum." But I didn't know what that meant younger. I was just like, okay, like whatever. But they were stern and strong. Sit me down, put the hand in my face, and you ain't gonna be like this when you get older. As opposed to my grandmother, where she spit in your hand and hit you on your butt raw. I don't know where that came from. I think it came from down south whoopings. But that hand go all the way to Africa and then come back to New York. Whew. Yeah. I still got this thing for that. And then you have my mom, who was verbally, mentally, and physically abusing. So it tends to be a psychological thing that young ones grasp, and I was one of those who grasped it. So it actually came from everyone.
Okay, Shawn, you have an experience with that?
Not that heavy. I believe that it can be. I mean, growing up, you would see it, and then maybe even now, the higher percentage may be man towards woman. But nowadays, we know women are kind of catching up with that type of thing, where they're not standing for certain things, or they come up a certain way. But when I was coming up, it was more male towards female domestic violence, and that's what we saw. Again, I didn't see a lot of it in my household. I can't even sit here, and I'm not even going to make up anything. But you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. I'm sure my parents, they argued or whatever, and they had their little moments. But in society, coming up, it was more male dominated more towards female.
Is that because males didn't report it?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about back in the day, men were supposed to be men. You're not supposed to be getting beat up by no woman. You know, you can have that mentality, the old school mentality of a man being a man. You ain't supposed to cry, that type of thing.
Right.
So to report a woman beating you up is kind of weak.
Yeah, like a macho kind of thing. Yeah,
pride, ego. So
Yeah.
even if it was happening, it wasn't a lot of cats. I'm sure a lot of cats aren't reporting it now, but you know, some are.
So when we talk about abuses in the home, a lot of times men don't report the abuse. So we know that women do abuse men. They abuse men a lot, because it's just logical to think that if men are abusing women, some women will fight back. They're going to abuse men. Some women are starters, unlike men, and they'll start it and they'll abuse men. So it's probably close to 50-50. It's just, you know, men don't report it as much as women. Have you experienced any of that, Shawn? Because you're a guy on the panel. Has any woman physically hit you, and how did you handle that?
I haven't really experienced any kind of real physical abuse from any women when they get upset and start, you know, hollering when something doesn't go proper, you know, their way. I had one instance where a young lady, but you know, this was alcohol induced, but she didn't, you know, she wasn't physical. She was more verbally and mentally abusive, you know, wanting to do that kind of thing than to fight, because one, I was bigger than she was. So it was on a level of more cursing or trying to degrade me or knock me down as a man, you know, hit the ego or the pride type thing. And I think that's what happens a lot more than the physical abuse of men.
Right.
It's more mental and verbal, because they try to go at you on your pride tip or your ego, and it's really easy to knock a dude's pride and ego. So I think a lot of times when you said as far as reporting it, I think it's not physical. It's just a woman trying to tear the guy down, especially if she can't beat him, fight him physically. Hurt him with words and things on that level.
So Shawn mentions verbal abuse. He also mentions mental abuse, which is a couple of things we didn't really get into. I want to introduce another person who's on the panel with us today. Her name is Sanayia Nauamnn, and she is a motivational productivity lifestyle coach. She has over 12 years of experience teaching in the New York City school system. She is a survivor of domestic violence, and her goal is to raise awareness about domestic violence by educating, equipping, and empowering others. So I want you to touch on what Shawn said. He mentioned mental abuse. Being that you've been in the school system, you've dealt with kids who come with a lot of issues. What is your experience with that?
Well, I've seen it and experienced it in my own life and in the school system. He's absolutely right. I've seen a lot of the mothers, you know, they're abusing their children because now the abused becomes the abuser. That's what happens eventually. She says, "You're not shit. Fuck you. Get the fuck over here. Sit down. I'm gonna punch you in your face." A lot of ugly words and a lot of words to lower the child's self-esteem is exhibited in terms of the verbal, and even now the verbal and the mental, because you've broken the child down mentally and use words to hurt them. Now it becomes physical, because I've watched mothers pull and punch and slap their kids because they said, "You ain't shit like your father. Get your ass over here." If this child says, "Mommy, I want this," I'm gonna punch you in your fucking face. I've seen this repeatedly in the school system. I've seen it in homes where I've dealt with men. I've heard mothers tell their children, male children, "You ain't shit." I've even heard them tell this to the female children, but we're now going to just focus on the males. And so now when this male is going to be in a relationship, how can he say anything healthy or something positive to the same sex or whether he's dealing with the opposite sex, if this has been taught repeatedly year after year, how does he know how to say something positive if these negative words and these negative actions have been repeatedly demonstrated as a model of behavior in the home?
So Shantay, she brings up a lot of points about the children and the way they're raised and abuse that they suffer, and you experienced some of that. So how did that affect you as you became an adult?
Wow. Well, I guess as a child I coped with it, but as I got older and I got into my own relationships, I experienced myself doing exactly what my mom was doing, not drug-wise, but like mentally and verbally, yelling and screaming and things of that nature. But I was the type that catch myself. You know how you have an epiphany, like, wait a minute, I'm doing exactly what my mother was doing. And I still fight to this day with that because it is a mental thing.
So were you doing that to your son or partners, friends, family members?
I do it to my son sometimes I do it with my partner. And I'm going through the process because the first thing that you have to realize is noticing that you're doing wrong. And I actually realized that when I had a mental breakdown and when I was 27, when I turned 27. And once I had that mental breakdown, it was like, okay, Shantay, you need to get it together. Seeing a doctor, and there's nothing wrong with getting help. I just want to put that out there. If you need help, get it. You need support, it's out there. And I went, and I think I spent about 7-8 days. And the doctor had explained to me, he said, you're suffering like from depression and a mental breakdown. He said, you're like a volcano. He said, it's been years and years and years building up whatever you went through in your life without speaking to people, and it's boiling up, and you know how a volcano just erupts? That's what happened to you. And I didn't realize it at all, like not for one bit what was going on. I blacked out, everything. So after that, it was like, get your life, Shantay, get your life. Every time I would hear myself raise my voice, my son would remind me, my fiance would remind me, you're raising your voice. And if I'm on 10, I'll try to bring it down to 7 and keep lowering it. But it's like when you grow up and I guess in a no nonsense, you don't take shit from nobody kind of thing, that's the attitude that was my armor. You understand what I'm saying? So if I hear you and I feel like you're about to approach me on some next level crap or some BS, it's just gonna be like, I don't wanna hear it, let's fight, and my armor is up and I'm ready. And I learn to listen to what people have to say. They may not always be out to hurt you. Because, being in domestic violence, a lot of it comes from being scared and strong at the same time, because you're scared, but when you're scared, you put up that defense mechanism. So you always think somebody's out to got to get you or hurt you. So it was like that armor of defense has to go on.
All right. So has the therapy helped you, and are you still in therapy?
Well, I would say it helped, but only for so much, because I felt myself sitting there saying the same things over and over again. And it was to the point like, when I talked about it, it was okay. The first 3, 4, 5 times, it was okay. But when it's a repeated issue that cannot be resolved because of the other person who's not willing to be around or help or give closure, it's always going to be an open wound. And I'm relating that to my mom. She never wants to be a part of it. She's a big part of why I had the breakdown, a big part of why I have a certain attitude and ways of things. And because she's not willing, it will never be a closed chapter. So I'll just have to keep moving. And no, I'm not in it right now, but I took what I got from it and I apply it to my everyday life.
All right. So how would you touch on what she just said in relation to what you experienced?
Shantay is absolutely right. I mean, what I found myself as, it was cyclic or one after another. Almost every relationship I've been in was abusive. So now this is what's like an alcoholic or a drug addict. I had to realize I had a problem. I had to look at myself. My brother first brought it to my attention by introducing a lady named Stephanie McGraw, who has an organization called WARM. She has it in Harlem, We All Really Matter. He first introduced me to her, and I was offensive, like, why is he introducing me to this lady? Whatever, but I started coming to the meetings. Then I stopped, and that was a big mistake by stopping. See, because I had to address the problem, because I became the problem, because, again, I was being abused, became the abuser. So I found myself this very positive person becoming very negative. I went from very positive to very negative, saying things and doing actions that I normally wouldn't do. The person driving me to wanting to hurt them too, wanting to kill them too, wanting me to lose all the things that I built up in terms of education and building myself, almost went down the drain. And I also agree with her, it starts in the home. A lot of the kids come to school damaged and hurt. That's where they're fighting. They're cursing the teachers, cursing the principals, cursing each other, throwing books, throwing desks, running in and out, unable to be stable and sit behind a desk, write down instruction. And even we have some that can follow directions or directives from the educators, but they have trouble focusing and being their best and shining and getting involved in activities because they have been pounded with tons of beatings, verbal, physical, snatching, pulling, punching, mental beating, physical beating, psychological beating, financial beating, the mothers taking the money, getting high, the mothers taking the money, giving it to their boyfriends, the mothers allowing the boyfriends and male counterparts who they deal with in terms of getting high and drinking with to sexually abuse their sons and daughters. So this has been systemic. This is huge in our community. It needs to be addressed on a regular basis. We need to do more as a community in terms of making it part of the curriculum, not only bringing outside organizations, which I'm very for that, but making it like math, science, English, social studies. It must be taught from the day the children are born. This way they can know how to deal with it. This way they can get more help and more support, because that's why this whole society now has come to a big mess.
So those are good solutions, but you personally, if you were damaged and you said you became negative, so did you bring that into your next relationship?
Oh, absolutely, because I thought I was being positive, but now when they would say something negative to me or do something negative to say or physically touch me or mentally mess with me or financially, I would combat it with what they're doing to me versus going to my group, going to my support system, going to my counseling, getting up and leaving, because I thought I can fix the person and fix the problem, but I then now had to look at myself in the mirror and realize I can't fix anybody. I have to start with me, develop myself, get some help, coach myself, because I can't fix anyone. The fix starts with myself, so I had to do introspection, meaning I had to look at me.
Absolutely.
I couldn't look at them. It ends with me and starts with me. I had to own up to that and take responsibility for myself.
Right. So one of those things is baggage, because people bring a lot of the negative baggage from their past relationships and experiences into the new relationships. And you want to start fresh, but he may say something or do something, and then you have that flashback. You remember that happened in the past. Now, he might not be going there, but just because you remember it, it triggers something in you, and then you get defensive, you put up walls, you get negative, or you fight back, and now the relationship
I call those red flags. Yeah.
Right.
I get those from time to time.
Right. Some red flags are forecast that aren't even there.
That's true. It's very true though. But I get those from time to time. My fiance tells me things like that, like I'm not that person, or you can't think of me like that. Have I ever given you any warning signs of it? But when you feel like you're in that situation, or just the air around you, or it brings you back. It's a mental thing too. And it just comes back to you. You know, you just sit there and sometimes you daydream or you drift off. It's like I said, it's like a lifestyle. It's in your head. And it is, and it's sad, but thank God I have, you know, him around me to remind me and to, I guess in retrospect, put me in check and say, listen, this is not the way, or this is not normal. You know, you don't need to worry about that, or I'm not that dude. And I mean, I'm really thankful for him. I really am, because red flags pop up all the time.
No, that's expected with that trauma. So, Shawn, when you're out there dating, are you experiencing these baggage, red flag kind of females that are bringing this into your relationship?
Yeah, and I mean, I got to say honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm single today. Not disrespecting any female out there, but you know, you got to know, like you said, you got to know yourself. So I know my situation. I know what I need to keep myself healthy and then, you know, focused. But it's hard not to. Again, even though you say you're going to something new, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna try not to put her in the same category as this last knucklehead, and I'm gonna call her a knucklehead, whoever she might have been. Right. You know, because I've been called a knucklehead, I'm sure. But it's so hard not to when you see, like you said, the flags that go, okay, I'm gonna let it go because she is somebody different, especially if it's 3 or 4 or 5 flags.
Right.
But a lot of people are not ready. They're not ready to progress on because they haven't fixed themselves. That was very important what you said about, you know, I got to make sure I'm correct. But a lot of them are not correct. They think they are. They think they're ready to move on, but they're not ready to move on because as soon as you go this way, oh, my ex-boyfriend used to breathe like that before he, you know, pulled his belt. You know, but listen, you know what I'm saying? So it's those little things that could cause a problem or an issue where the female or male might think that they're ready to move on to another relationship, but they're really not because they're not healed. They haven't either healed themselves or they haven't taken enough time to do it. And the person who is not that other person is the one that's punished for it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, regardless of how much, and this is serious. Like,
no, it is.
About a week or so ago, I had a young lady tell me how much she wanted to date, or she wanted to go out. She thought I was, you know, this kind of person, whatever. And then she sat down and told me about her issues. And I'm like, okay, well, you say you want to do this. And then she said something about she likes to spend time when she's bored with, you know, she doesn't have anything, then she'll deal with it, but because she's got this going on with her family, she got that going on. She even told me she had guys, I hope she ain't listening to this, but I hope she has, she said she has dudes that she's done a certain way because of her past relationships that might be looking for her on a certain level because she's dogged them emotionally.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? Because that's something that, again, she hasn't healed from her abuse issues, whether they're physical. You know, but so why you can't go into something new if you're not done with the past stuff. But some people feel like, oh yeah, I can do this. I'm gonna meet this new person and I'm all right. I'm gonna be okay. But as soon as 12 o'clock hit, you know, you start flipping and thinking. You get your own little daydreaming, and now, oh, he's snoring like my ex, and my ex used to do that before he got crazy. So it's very hard to date now because everybody has their own quote unquote crazy. I call it. Men,
you call it crazy.
Yeah, men have their stupid bag, and women have their crazy bag, and that's what I believe. And it's just. And you can't deny and say, oh,
absolutely.
No. That's why I like it when women say, yeah, I'm crazy. I'm a little crazy. Because we all have that stuff. Even though I haven't dealt with major traumatic things, I have my issues. Mm-hmm. And sometimes my issues will fall back in. You know, my patience level is very short. So when I see someone who might be like the young lady I told you about, with drink, and then she would get all, okay, you know what? I don't even want to deal with women who drink. They may not even be that way. Right. But because of what I dealt with this one, I don't even want to take a chance on it because I know where that didn't go. That's why I'm not with her today. Mm-hmm. So it's dating is kind of difficult, especially because everybody, no matter what people say, they do have something.
Baggage.
If they're, and some people can handle it and they've gotten it under control, and some people don't. But some people fool themselves thinking that they have it under control until a situation happens and they explode. And it's not, it's not good.
And that goes back to what I was saying, how I ended up in a mental hospital. Before, I was thinking that was normal, the way I was living my life, yelling and screaming and, doing those type of things until I met someone who took the time out to tell me, no, this is not right. But it took for me to end up in a mental hospital, broken down. I mean, I had a nervous breakdown to, I think, the 50th power. I didn't know even what happened. It was that serious. And when you go through something like that, not knowing that you really had an issue, it's an eye-opener to point one where you're locked up with a bunch of crazies when you didn't consider yourself to be crazy, but that's what the law states you're mental, you're psychological, whatever. Right. But, and I'm speaking on this because it was so funny. There's this guy who was in there, and he was talking about God a lot, but he would do just the silliest things, like he have smiley face underwears on, and he'll pull his pants down and just walk around with it like that. And he would do it in the street, and people would say, that's why he's in here. I was like, well, I don't think he's crazy, because he's pulling down, guys walk around every day with their underwear showing, but he would literally just pull it, and it's always a smiley face with a tongue sticking out. I thought it was hilarious, but it was just things that you would see, but you really saw people in there who were mentally messed up. And me, when I was put in there, I was judgmental, because I'm like, oh, I ain't like these people, but I am. Especially the sisters. Spanish, I don't care what you are. You my sister, I am you, you are me. I may not be in here
That's right.
for what you're in here for, but we're in here for a reason. And there's something mentally that's going on. And as far as the brothers, I may be a sister, I may be a lover, I may be a friend, but we're still all one nation, and we're still here for the same situations, and that's something psychological. And when I got there, I used to close myself off. And the doctor told me, listen, you don't have a lot of severe things going on, but you do have something wrong with you. And he told me the only way you're going to get out of here faster is if you start interacting. He said, I know you may not be comfortable dealing with this person here. There was this one girl who was just staring at me all the time, just like the cold eye stare, like, I was like, creepy. But she did that to everybody. And she thought everybody was her daughter. Something traumatic happened. So that was crazy. And then they put me in there. I had a roommate. But this girl, she just didn't wash at all. I was upset about that. Like, she needs to wash. Like,
Oh, that's abuse.
Yeah, it is. She didn't like to wash. She did not like to wash. Like, when they put her in the shower, she was screaming, no! Water, soap, I don't know what it was, but she was freaking out.
So do you feel like the experience being there helped you, or?
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. So once I got in there and I started surrounding myself with them, I was realizing they just as human as I am. Yeah, something is wrong, but guess what? Something is just wrong. It can be fixed. If I talk, they'll speak. If I ask a question, they're going to answer. It wasn't like they were aliens. And I actually saw myself facilitating the group, not knowing that the doctor were watching us. And that next day, they was like, you can go. But it was just that interaction, because once I was hiding myself, I was like, I'm not a part of them. This is not me. I'm not crazy. I was thinking that I was better. I didn't belong here.
So the interaction helped you cope with some of the things that you were going through?
Yeah, it actually did, because, people, when I got in there and I explained to them what happened to me, people were like, oh, that happened to me 8 years ago. And then they started telling me some other stuff that happened. I was like, well, damn, But I was like, it's not that bad. So I was looking like, what I got going on can definitely be fixed, So it did kind of help me.
So one of the things about domestic violence that we didn't touch on is sexual violence. I'm just going to throw it out to anyone who wants to take the question. Has anybody experienced that, or been with a friend who experienced it, a family member, and how did it change you or touch your life?
Well, I've experienced it. It was a family member, and it was somebody married to one of my siblings. Happened to me when I was 16. They grabbed me when I was walking upstairs, and I had to threaten them. If you do that again, I'm gonna tell my sister. They did it more than once now. It got to the point where so many years passed, because my mother went and said, well, your sister's about to have a baby, don't say anything. No, I said something. I was always the talker in the family. I don't really hold my tongue. So that changed a lot of things in the family, but it had to be addressed, and I know that was wrong, because I was raised with Bible principles, but also applying the Bible, having the values, and using them in my life. That the person approached me with a sexual conversation, and I didn't take that easy. I picked up a knife. I actually tried to murder the person. The person told my sister, your sister's crazy. No, I'm not. You're not going to do any crap anymore. I'm not taking any of your crap. Don't put your hands on me. I'm not having it. I just wanted the person to stop. What stopped me from actually hurting the person and going to jail, he called my sister. My sister said, please, Sanayia, don't do that. My boys are downstairs, because my nephews happened to be downstairs at my mom's home. But he and I were in the kitchen. He tried to face me. I didn't fool around. I had enough, because I started getting some sort of education then, and my father didn't tolerate that type of behavior. He was not a father that allowed me to sleep in anyone's home. So I already knew something was wrong. And then I want to say something that hurt people. And to piggyback off of the baggage is, when I was in the relationship with the person I was in, I thought they were my friend. Because initially we were friends for years off and on, and I would tell them a lot of my past. I didn't realize getting involved that they were sick also, and that they were throwing a lot of my past in my face through text messages, through voicemails, through emails, and I was just pretending it's gonna go away by walking around like Mary Poppins, like, okay, let me bring in my greatness, let me make my organic foods, let me do massage therapy for them, body work. But I was trying to fix somebody when I needed to be fixed, to not even be involved with a combative person who was violent, who was psychologically damaged, mentally damaged, and physically damaged. But to piggyback off in the home, the person I believe that did that to me probably doesn't want to admit it. I believe they could have been sexually assaulted as a child, and they're trying to transfer that hurt or that action towards me.
So does anybody else have an experience?
Sure, I definitely. Right, I know she's like, damn, so many things has happened to this woman here. But hey, I'm standing strong, I tell you that. But I was actually 11 years old, and I had to spend the night at one of my friend's house. And it was late night, I don't know what time it was. We were supposed to be asleep by that time. I was sleeping. And her stepfather, came in the room. I'm sorry, it's like kind of difficult.
Yeah, take your time.
I was sleeping, we both were sleeping, and I just kept feeling like these weird feeling that I've never felt before. I'm 11 years old, so I didn't know what this feeling was. But I'm thinking I was dreaming, I thought it was something that was happening in my dream. And I woke up, and I looked and I saw him like walking away towards the window, like he was looking out the window when my eyes were fully open. And I didn't say anything, I just looked at him, but I laid back down because I'm like, okay, I'm not thinking in my mind that this man is even equipped to do something like that. He knows me, he knows my family. I just didn't think that it was him, and I felt safe there. So I went back to sleep and opened up my eyes again to this strange feeling. Still didn't catch him at that time. He was walking out the room then. So I reached over and I tapped my friend and I said, something is not right. Your dad keeps coming in his room. I keep getting these strange feelings between my legs. And she's like, so? This is my dad. He always come in the room. And when she said that to me, it kind of messed me up in my head like, okay. So for a while, I would just lay there, but I would keep my eyes open. So when I would see him come back in the room, I would make like a noise, like stuff, so that he know that I was up. So he wouldn't come back in the room. So he would peek and I would see him. But I'm young, I'm 11, I'm trying to fight my sleep. I'm trying to figure out what's going on because I've never experienced anything. No feeling like that, no nothing. So I guess I end up drifting off, going back to sleep. And I kept feeling like this hot air breathing over me. It's breathing. I'm like, maybe it's hot. So I'm wiping my sweat off, But I'm smelling like beer, the smell of it. And I'm like, what's going on? And marijuana. And I'm like, maybe they smoking outside. But this, I'm thinking it's all in my mind, but actually this man, this grown-ass man, is over me with his hands in my panties, molesting me. And I'm feeling this wet, gushy feeling that I have never felt before. And I opened up my eyes and I caught him. And he just zoomed out the room. And it was so weird because when I tried to wake my friend up, she wouldn't wake up. Knowing the fact that he was in that house, I couldn't even go to her mother's room and tell her. I couldn't wait till daylight hit so I could run across the building to my home. And I went and I told my mom. And thinking that she's going to be my protector, big bad mother, everybody know in the streets for fighting, this, that, and third. And she called. She told me she called them and she asked, and she spoke to her mother. And her mother said to her, I don't know. Let me ask him. And she said my mother called her back, and she said, yeah. He said he's not sure if he did it because he was too high and drunk. And as a little girl, I looked at my mother like, that's it? Like, that's it? Like, this is what you're accepting? You know, it was just so much to go outside and play, leave it alone, it's nothing. And it was so weird because I came from outside later on, and they were coming out of the room together. And usually when adults in my home was coming out of a room together, they was getting high. And I looked at my mother's eyes, and her pupils were dilated, and I knew, and I felt used, like, you didn't protect me, you don't love me. I told you what happened, you took his answer, and now you're in here getting high with him. I just felt disrespected all around. And I felt hurt, and I felt like no one loved me, and I felt neglected. And I just actually, last year, I told 2 people in my family about it. And I just told my fiance recently. And I did a monologue about it a few months back. And that's sort of been like my healing towards it. And it's very difficult to deal with still at this day and age, because I haven't gotten any closure from it.
So you've done the monologue to talk about your experience. You also wrote a book.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the book and how it's helped you overcome your trauma from the past.
Well, it's self-titled, called Scars That Make Up Her Life. Scars That Make Up pretty much is a metaphor. It's pretty much speaking about anything negative that was turned into a positive. The scars is the negative, and the makeup is the positive parts. And I wrote this book because they're like personal memoirs of things that happened in my life. I'm working on part 2 right now, but by me writing this book, a lot of people say writing is healing, poetry is healing, and it actually is, because even though I've done therapy and before the nervous breakdown, I would intake a lot, and I didn't know how to release it. But I always liked to write in school, always loved poetry, things of that nature, but I didn't know how to put that in use to help me with my problems or cope with the things that I was going through. But in me writing Scars That Make Up Her Life, I realized how much I was helping myself by letting it out or expressing it with something as simple as a paper and a pencil or a pen. And not only have I helped myself, but the people who have read my book and enjoyed it and compared to it, I get all these great emails, and thank you for me being their voice. And I'm not going to sit up here and say I'm not doing it for the money, because of course I want to get paid for writing, but I do it for more than just that. I want to educate. I want to help. You know, there's so many young women and men out there who are afraid to go to the hospital or go to the doctor and go and get help, or afraid to leave their relationships, you know, abusive, mentally, physically, sexually, emotionally. And, you know, you can't be, and I can't sit up here and say you can't, because at one point in time, I couldn't do it either. But you have to find that strength within you to know that you have to love yourself first before you can love anybody else, and you have to heal yourself. Just like the panelists on my left and across from me were saying, you gotta heal first. And I think I said a lot so far.
No, that's good. That's good information. So if people need resources, people need places to go, people to call to get help, where would you refer them?
Well, there's a lot of different places. You know, it's so crazy because I think my book is over there. I don't remember off back, but you can Google all of these places. Google is, I mean, this technology is amazing. just Google domestic violence, shelters, help, counsel, and it's right there for you. I passed a card with Stephanie McGraw. Yeah, she's awesome. She has a organization called WARM, We All Really Matter, which is dope. I've experienced being around there with her, and she threw a great rally, which was pretty awesome, amongst a few others, you know. And as for me, Scars and Makeup is not as big as everything else, and it's not a nonprofit organization, not as of yet. But I do roundtables events, just like these, whether it's in a rented place, whether it's in my church. I'm always willing to talk and speak to anybody who's been through a situation. If I can help them or direct them, give them any type of information that they need, I am all for it.
All right. So if people wanted to contact you, is there an email or website where they can reach you?
Oh, yes. It is scarsandmakeup.com, which is my website. My email is s.williams@scarsandmakeup.com. You could follow me on Facebook at Shantay Williams, Instagram, Scars and Makeup, and
links to all of those social media platforms on your website, right?
Yes, absolutely. They're all there.
All right. So let's throw it to Ms. Naumann. What are some of the resources you can recommend to people who need help?
Well, just to piggyback off of what Shantay said, very important on your phone. You can go right on your Safari if you have an iPhone, or you can go on your internet service, whether you have an Android, and you could put NYC, New York City, NYC domestic violence. Now, I know there's an expression, and I love this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I'm a testimony to this. When you are ready to seek help, when you are knowing something is wrong, you're going to start to meet the people. It's happening for me now. As I'm sitting here, other people want me to speak at their events, and I'm like, you want me to speak? Are you serious? They're like, yeah, you got to be at this event. We're looking for you. Here's my contact. And then also, we got to stop being secret about this. What did my mother say to me? I remember, Sanayia, don't say anything to your sister, because see, my sister was ready to have a baby, but I'm glad I said something. We got to address it. We got to talk about it. Also, too, my mother did back me. My brother-in-law, he wasn't allowed at my house for many years. He used to stay over there, not anymore. And now my mother died last year, but my family was not having it. You know, and this is my sister that I'm close to, helped raise me. But also, too, we have to piggyback on, we have to talk about it. Like, for example, in the street, when I see a brother bullying his little brother, little sister, come the F on and punch them in their chest. Come, get your F and A double S. Oh, I say something. Wait a minute, can we say something nicer to each other? Can you say, come on, please? Or pull them in a nice way? Or do it without it seeming like we're trying to hurt them? So I actually say something. I've actually seen a boyfriend and a girlfriend fighting a month or so ago, and I interjected even though the boyfriend, you know, was cursing me, the girl was pregnant, I didn't care. I actually took a risk. I know it's dangerous, but it was other people there, so I wasn't really too worried. It was on a busy street, other people were walking. I did say something. I stopped being quiet, because actually when I was being abused, I became quiet. When people would say my name in this building, shh, don't say my name loud. The lady's like, why are you telling me that, Sanayia? Why are you not telling me don't say my name loud? Because see, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. But I was being embarrassed, being bruised, being beaten, being kicked, being punched, being financially abused. Money was being held from me. Mentally abused, psychological abuse. And I was walking around like I'm okay, but I was crying inside. And I just wanted to somebody say, Sanayia, speak out, because I have a mouth. I can speak, right? We got 2 ears and 1 mouth, but I got a big mouth, and I know how to speak. So, I had to start saying something. I had to stop pretending for 4 years while I'm suffering, packing on weight, getting more sick, my hair's falling out, losing a tooth and having to pay so much money for an implant, pains in my body, my legs and my back. All this was from the violence. This was all from the crazy environment that looks so clean and pristine, and the people have money, but the verbal and the mental and the physical and all that inside abuse. Because see, physically you can look nice. You can wear a nice handbag. I just want to piggyback off this. Nice sneakers, nice iPhone, right? Because we all like looking nice. Nice cars, nice home. But the inside is what we got to clean out. Got to clean from the inside out, from the head to the toe. Physical is not just eating healthy, but it's got to be mental. What are we putting in our mind? What are we talking about? What are we listening to? I had to go look at myself. I had to go again within myself. And then now I got to speak to other people. So when I'm on the train, I was just speaking to 2 young people today. That's what it starts. It could be 1 person. It could be 2 person. Every day, I said I'm going to do something to make other people aware. And I even have a public microphone and speaker. I may speak out in the street. I may speak out in the community. I'm not afraid anymore. I have to be the one. I have to be the voice. Like Shantay's the voice. Like this gentleman, he is the voice. We got to start speaking. We can't pretend anymore.
Right. So the advice is definitely to speak up, speak out, and then get these people from around you. You know, keep them out your life, keep them away from you. So that's excellent advice. I want to throw it to Shawn now. I know, Shawn, you have a book called Expressions of Love and Romance.
Yes.
Right? So we're talking about all this abuse and all this physical and mental and sexual, but when we get to a place of healing, I'll let you take it from there.
Well, yeah, my book is called Expressions of Love and Romance, and it basically started out as a book of poetry, being creative. But when you write poetry, you're writing about something. So there were a lot of, I was going through an injury for my taekwondo I was taking, and I had a lot of time to lay back on my back, but I had a lot of stuff going on, and just started thinking. I just kept writing and writing and writing and writing. Somebody suggested, why don't you write a book? And wow, what am I going to write a book about? Well, write about what you know, or you know what I mean. So I didn't really know. When I said I'm in my little intro, I'm a good guy. It came from the basis of being a romantic. I'm just a hopeless romantic. And I love romance, and I love love, and I love that kind of feeling, not necessarily sexual, but the whole energy. So I wrote a book, and the book basically, it channels from the beginning where I didn't know what love and romance was, from my first kiss all the way up to now, experiences through poetry, through the things I've seen on the street, other people's relationships, my relationships, whether it be sexual, physical, emotional, whatever. And it's just a journey, and it was obviously a self-help. It helped me to understand more about myself, and it helped me as far as being able to deal with females in relationships. And through my experiences of meeting and dealing with different types of females, how to be patient and understand someone else outside of just having been in my own thought process, and knowing that I'm dealing with someone else. So the book actually, it helps. The people that have read the book says that my sister actually read it when she said it's an easy read. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you see something in there about yourself, and hopefully it teaches someone how to relax a little bit, breathe back. What's the definition of romance? What's your definition of romance? We should be able to love each other and respect each other and have and respect the differences and enjoy each other, because that's what I believe. I don't believe we're put here to be by ourselves. Now, I don't know about the whole soulmate thing. I don't believe there's one soulmate. I can't believe that my spirituality, that God put us here on this planet, millions and millions of people, there's only one person that's equally connected and yoked with you. I just don't believe that. So when someone says, I have to find my soulmate, there's a whole bunch of people on this planet that you can connect with. Some people you just have to build with. So my whole thing about writing the book, and when I started to write it, one of my boys was like, yo, you've had a lot of adventures. I'm not a hoe on any kind of level, but that's a cake. That's a cupcake. So you should write about your experience. That's not what the book is really about. It's about, again, how I embrace romance, love, and how I want to be loved. So that goes along with relationships. That's, again, why I've never put my hand on a woman. I've had these little things where women have been upset. And when you were talking about the whole sexual abuse thing, I've never had that scenario, but I've dealt with women who've had these issues where it got in the way of me her being able to open up, and me being able to open up fully, because we can't enjoy ourselves now sexually, physically, romantically, because of the past situations. So there are a lot of examples in the books. Some of my songs, you've done my video work. A lot of my songs are romance-based, they're love-based, because that's who I am. And we all want that perfect relationship where there's nothing negative going on. But we can't get it because we're different. It doesn't exist. You're going to have those. But what I try to do is look at the big goal. If you're both on the same path for the big goal of being together, these little things that you can get across them and deal.
Right, absolutely.
And I want to say also, when the young ladies talked about the whole mental abuse thing, as I read my book over, it does give me a calming, because I would see the beautiful relationship. I would see the 2 people on the train. The young lady, she's asleep on his shoulder, but at that moment, that's a perfect relationship. But you don't know what could have happened an hour ago. You know what I mean? So it's a whole thing. It's a journey through love and romance, again, from my first kiss to my first girlfriend, to my first sexual experience, to my own other sexual experiences, to just straight up romantic scenarios that make people feel good. And that's basically what the book is about. I'm actually on writing part 2, because love and romance is every day. You know, just sitting here listening to these conversations inspires some scenarios that I can write about. I have to commend the young ladies that have gone through what they've gone through and are able to sit here and talk about it and continue to heal themselves, because that's very important. Years ago, it was the village raising the village.
Right.
Now it's not like that. That's why a lot of these things still exist, because we didn't go to no counselors coming up in our culture, black culture, Hispanic. We didn't believe in that kind of stuff. Right. No, you dealt with that in the house. Well, that's why there's so many secrets, because nobody talked. Nobody wanted to tell about Uncle Ray or Auntie this and Auntie that doing this and that, because there was no conversation like that. We didn't have these whole things about people being psychologically wrong. We just had that uncle or somebody in the back room that just was back there. So there wasn't a lot of discussion, and that's why you have people today, grown-ups, who are dealing with these issues. I don't really believe that it necessarily has to be a counselor on whatever level, but I believe that does help. But like you said, if you just talk, sometimes just talking to someone you feel you can trust. If it doesn't have to be the parent or the brother, a sibling in the house. Because on my block growing up in Hempstead, we had the Greens. They were 2 old people. They were older than me. On the corner, they used to give all the kids cookies and soda and all this, and you can go sit on their porch, and they would sit and talk with you. If your parents weren't home, you can go sit on their porch till it was time to go to your. Those are the people that we need nowadays. You don't have that, because you don't know who's going to strike back at you. Like you said, when you try to attempt to help the young lady out, because you might try to help her out, she's going to turn on you because you're getting on him. So you have no idea. It's just really crazy. Again, we need the old school village, raising the village, and people. It's not there anymore. That component is not there, and you hear it. You hear it in the street. I'm so hearing young ladies talk the way they talk nowadays. They have no respect for themselves.
Yes,
that's why I think the abuse, like we talk, is so much more higher with them abusing men nowadays than it could be equal, because they're just as nasty and negative as men.
As a male,
I think it's really flipped around. The attitudes, men used to be this way, so now we're going to be, well, you're only 17, 16. What do you mean? You wasn't around then for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you never know people's experiences. So my book, I'm sorry, I went around, but the book is called Expressions of Love and Romance. Maybe if you read a chapter or 2, you can relax and just learn how to appreciate people and learn what not to do and how to love again, man. I mean, get back to love again and respect again. So it's the bottom line.
All right, so we're going to end that on a positive note. That was a great discussion from you guys. I'm going to put all your contact information in the description box on YouTube, so anybody who wants to follow up and order a book or speak to one of the guests for the panel, that information will be there. Remember, guys, to love yourself and protect yourself. 1.